I understand it's been a challenging day or 4 or 5 in the health center lately. So appreciate you getting away and also appreciate you all um, providing great care, great services for residents and their families. You guys do an awesome job, and it's very much appreciated. The Evenglow board, well, first of all, we have, thank you for coming. We have some exciting news to share with you. We have, our board has been planning for the last 2 years, or close to it, for what you're seeing on paper. The board typically conducts a planning effort every 5 years. And this one got started just a little bit less than 2 years ago. We have a couple board members with us today. We have Carol Flessner, our board chair. Sitting next to Carol is Dave Oakes, the planning task force chair. And Roger, right in back, Roger Walls is also on the planning task force. So thank you for coming today too. I got a little bit out of order. I got to get myself back on schedule here. The board hired consultants to help us with the planning process. Plant Moran got us started, and Jamie Tomadio and Kyle Danow, did I get that right? Is here from Plant Moran. And we also have representatives from BLDD, Scott Likens and Chris Lee, who will be talking with us this afternoon and really explaining what's going to go on here in the next 3-4 years. We had focus groups that were formed last summer who really and they met with Plant Moran, and they really explained or told us what they are interested in the way of independent living in terms of features, space, location. And through this planning process, independent living was identified as a need in the Pontiac area. Also, what was discovered was all the needs for the lodge, and the culminating decision to actually build a new lodge. So that you see, and we'll talk about both of those buildings here shortly. We're at a point in the planning process that we can share this information. We certainly haven't finished all the planning. It'll take another good 9 months to complete that. And probably a year before construction starts. In order to communicate and make sure that you get the accurate information and hopefully timely information, a lot of the information about the project the ongoing information will be posted on the Paylocity portal. So some of you have accounts for the portal and others of you don't. If you'd like to follow that and benefit from other aspects of communication and benefits, HR information, the portal is the place to get it. Instructions for registering and setting up your account have been posted throughout all 3 buildings. Access to the Paylocity is available on most Evenglow computers in common areas. If you're having difficulty either registering or accessing it, get a hold of Sylvia, but the information is on pieces of paper that looks like this. So as the project progresses, more information will be posted on that portal, as well as I say, as well as other HR information as well. So I'd like to introduce Scott Likens from BLDD and Chris Lee, who will talk about the project.
Thank you, Mark. Again, my name is Scott, and I'm an architect with BLDD. And I first want to tell you that every project that we undertake, our primary goal is to design places that people want to live and places that people want to work in. And this project is an investment in the Evenglow community for its future vitality. And in my opinion, it also lends to the vitality of the future of Pontiac. Over the last 8 months or so, we have worked hard with lots of people to what is called program these buildings, where we talk about all the spaces that are required, how much space is required, how big, how small those spaces are, the adjacencies of those spaces, the potential cost of those spaces. And we put all of that information together when we create concepts. And we had many different scenarios, different concepts, different designs, as we considered operational aspects, the budget, dietary operations, service operations, disruption, not just to residents, but to staff as well. And as we looked at all of those different scenarios, what you see before you is the concept that rose to the top, that had the least disruption, that made the most sense from an operational standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint, and from a budget standpoint. So we had lots of factors that were pushing different directions. And we believe what Chris is about to show you in a little more detail, describe in a little more detail, is our best option. And we hope that you find this inspiring and exciting. And as we go through this, if you have a question, you don't understand a term or something that I or Chris or somebody uses, raise your hand, let us know, and or you can save it to the end, and we'll be here to answer questions about the design as we present. So, Chris?
Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to talk about the assisted living building first. And on your handouts here, you've got some of the same graphics. So the little orange-shaped L, which represents the assisted living building, is repeated here, a little bit larger on the boards, as well as some additional renderings. So the assisted living building, out at the end, we have the existing inn, and so the basic design concepts around the assisted living building are to respect what's already there architecturally. We have a look and feel to that memory care building, and that's what we're using to create the assisted living building. And then beyond that, we're trying to position it to be the most efficient we can make it. So we've got an existing entry and we've got an existing reception and lobby function. We don't want to double up on that because it starts to get confusing when visitors come. We don't know where to go. We've got two entrances. So we're going to leverage that existing entry. You can see a close-up right there next to Scott of that entry area. And then you're going to go through, if you've been there and you go into that lobby, you make an immediate left through what is now a little sitting room with a little fake fireplace. Picture that window getting opened up and turned into a circulation corridor. So you're going to walk right in through there into a living room space that will have a fireplace with some real fake flames. And then, so the living room will be in there, and then you'll be into the common areas of the assisted living building. Immediately behind that, we'll have a new commercial production kitchen. The existing kitchen in memory care just isn't big enough to handle the kind of load bringing 76 units out to this site. So we have to replace that or expand upon that. So we'll have a new commercial kitchen. We'll have a nice sized dining room to accommodate all of the residents. We'll have a salon. We'll have like a little grab and go sundry space where you can get a sandwich or a cup of soup or something like that. But beyond the dining room, it gives you flexible options for dining and something that's less formal. So a casual kind of setup. We'll have a fairly nice size multi-purpose room that will act as a chapel space and for all of those larger events when you want to bring the community in. We'll have a wellness area that has fitness. We'll bring some of the offices out there as well because we're displacing some people here when the lodge is no longer here. I think I mentioned the salon. We'll have commercial laundry out there, and then we'll have the 76 apartments. This building is 3 stories tall, and you can see it's pretty residential looking. Again, picking up on what's already there in the memory care building. Sloped shingled roofs and gables. We'll have a brick skirt around the building. The brick's going to be higher in some places than in others as we try to compose the facade of the building. And then the siding would be what you would see a high quality siding on a residence. So we talked about offices. We will have a staff lounge specific to that space, to that building as well. So a nice space with some good outside windows. Laundry will be out there as well. And the makeup will be studio and 1-bedroom apartments. You can see from the outside, we've got so at our big spaces like our dining room, and which is, yep, right there. The dining room will have a nice outdoor patio space and we'll have some landscaping around it. And then on the flip side of the building will be the multi-purpose room. So when you have big events and it's nice weather, you have a large patio out there as well to bring the event to the outdoors. The other thing of note is that the service drive is going to be around the backside. So right now, deliveries and trash come and go kind of from your front door almost out there. And that will be brought around to the back, off the back of the kitchen, which is the more efficient place to bring things in and out. And so you're separating with a new drive all of that traffic to the back, kind of the back door of the building. The other piece of note that I didn't talk about was the balcony. So up on the 3rd floor in the corner of the building, looking out to about the southwest, will be a 3rd story large balcony space that residents can go in and enjoy some weather with a full cover overhead, so they're not out in the rain, but can get outdoors if they desire to do so. Okay. Anything I missed on the assisted living building? Okay. Independent living. So this one is a little bit more interesting to design because we have the existing lodge building, which is a mid-century kind of high-rise, and so it's a very iconic building. Certainly for Pontiac, everybody I'm sure knows that building very well. It's tall, and it has a very distinct look, being fairly contemporary. So when we designed the independent living building, we wanted something kind of equally iconographic. It's a hard word to say. But we're also surrounded by almost a historic residential neighborhood, right? A lot of beautiful old homes are within that block, all the way around the building. So we wanted to respect the legacy of the existing lodge as a contemporary building, but put it in the setting of a residential neighborhood. So the combination of that kind of rectilinear shape, the big box, we've added these gables. And if you've got a picture of the Jones house around the block in your head, it has those 3 gables, and there's a really strong white line that follows that. So that image is really strong on that building. So we wanted to pay a little respect to the Jones house. So there's 3 gables on the front of that building. And that's our nod, plus the use of brick, which the Jones house is all brick. So there's a brick, the bottom floor all the way around the building is brick. Beyond that, the gables are really familiar, right, as a residential language. All of the houses around it have the gables. So that helps it fit within the neighborhood while still being able to produce or create a fairly contemporary looking building. And then we get down into the details. Again, lap siding, just like what you would see on a residence. One thing to note is in those gables where the dark brown is, we would have a very woody looking siding rather than just a solid color. It would have some depth and warmth to make it feel like wood. It will be made of a siding product that can withstand weather, but it will be very wood looking to add some of that warmth and scale. Balconies on all of those locations. There's balconies on the ends of the building, on the west and east ends of the building. So inside the building, we'll have, Scott, if you could kind of point approximately, there's going to be, the blue building is the residence building. And on the ground floor, on the east side is going to be 24 parking spaces inside the building so residents can get out of the weather. Then on the west end of that building will be commons areas. And on the southwest corner will be a bistro, and you can see the glazing in the one rendering of where that's going to be. There you go. So that'll be a really interesting spot because we can do some really cool finishes and cool light fixtures, and you have something with some life on the corner of the building, and you can see that glow. Then you get into the red part of the building that we show in that plan that we're calling the link. That'll be a single story, and that's where that multi-purpose room is going to be. We're going to have a fitness space. We're going to have PTOT is going to be moved up out of the basement from over here. So we get that just out of the basement. And it also opens up the opportunity for a better outpatient experience when that time comes. And then when the lodge comes down, the kitchen's no longer there, so we have to replace that as well. So that's going to be on the east end of that building. Another feature of this is on the west end, you'll see that kind of half moon circle drive. That's going to be our covered drop off. So currently it's on the southeast corner. Again, the lodge comes down. We need to replace that. We know that the north of the health center is not the best place to drop people off, get them out of the weather, get them safely up and around the ramp. So we're replacing that on that west face as part of the downtown side expression. That's where our front door is, on the downtown side. Another feature of that red is there will be a spine of a hallway running through the length of it. That way you can get from one end to the other, you can get through to the health center. But when you're parking on the east block, you've got an entrance back there. So there's a hallway and you can just get right into the building pretty quickly. I think I covered it all. The health center essentially remains unchanged. We're kind of cutting it off right at the back by where the service elevators are, by the ramp. So right there is about where it's going to get cut off, and the new independent living building and link will be built there. We might have some work in kitchens. There's the kitchens and the dining rooms that may need a little bit of work relative to getting food delivered, especially during interim times when we're under construction. The reason Chris presented the assisted living first, that will be the first phase of construction, so that once that is complete, the residents are... Oh, just want to get you on the mic because I think they're more worried about. We've got a web. We're live.
We live?
Okay. Yeah, we're sorry.
The reason that Chris presented the assisted living first was because that will be the first phase of construction. So once the assisted living building is done, the residents of the existing lodge that is above us over there will be able to move in to this building. We considered many scenarios. One of them was renovating the lodge, and the dollars that were associated with that, the disruption that could be associated with that, was something that we felt as a team was just too much. And we believe that building this new building will limit disruption. People will move into a brand new building. Then once the lodge is vacant, it's easy to demolish that building, take it down, and have a clean site to build the new independent living building. So a little bit background down there on the sequence of the project. I think with that, I may want to, before I steal all of Kyle's thunder, introduce Kyle, and he'll talk to you a little bit more about the overall schedule for the project.
So I'm with Plant Moran, and we've been helping Even Glow through the overall development process. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and talk about some of the work that we've done to date, and then some of the major milestones that we're going to try to hit leading up to the completion of the building, and just the timing of when all of this is going to happen. So we really started the design process about 6 or 8 months ago when we conducted some focus groups with folks from around the county to get their feedback on what they'd like to see in a new building, what spaces should be included, what the building should look like. We've really been incorporating that feedback as we march through design. Because Even Glow has a couple of different properties around Pontiac, Scott started to mention it, we had to study a lot of different scenarios. What buildings could we place where, and what were the impacts of those decisions? So for example, like Scott mentioned, we talked about renovating the lodge. Well, a lot of work's going to have to go into the lodge. We're going to have to spend a lot of money, but a big consideration was how that's going to impact the residents and how that impact how you do your daily job every day. So we'd have to take a couple floors to renovate it, or a wing. It would be loud, it'd be noisy, and we ultimately didn't feel that was the best option. So we studied that along with many others, and this is what we felt was best. So we're still very early on in the design process. We have another 8 or 9 months of true design left to go, and then we have to submit to the city for permits. So we're not going to start any construction until likely the spring of next year. So we got another year before something would even start. We're going to start with the assisted living building out at the Inn site. That's going to take about 1.5 years to complete. Once it's done, all the residents in the lodge would move out to their new home at the Inn site in the new assisted living building. Once the lodge is completely empty, we would demolish it to make way for the new independent living building. So the timing of when that would start would likely be sometime in the winter of 2023, and then that would take a little over 1 year to build. So this whole process won't be done until sometime in 2024. We're still really early on in design, so it's likely that schedule will shift and move around as we progress through this process. But that's kind of where we sit timing-wise. So this is something we're all very excited about. Everybody's put in a lot of thought and effort to kind of get us where we're at today. We want to hear the questions that you have for us. And, even if you take this home today, or you think about some things later, as you look at this handout, we want to hear your feedback. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, feel free to take that to Sylvia or your managing director, and it'll make its way to this design team, and we can kind of think those ideas through. But as we have more developed drawings, we'll share those with you so that you can see the progression of the design. So with that, we'll see what questions that you have for us today. And if you didn't want to speak up, we'll be hanging out for a couple minutes afterwards if you wanted to come and take a closer look at the boards. Yes.
And you've had that opportunity, and employees have kind of talked to you. So kind of share with us some of the thoughts and ideas that you thought, the employees have said. That kind of helps you understand the value of
Yeah, that's a really good point. And we were out at the inn earlier today, and someone came up. They were looking at the assisted living, and said, what would be a really good idea? What if we put a canopy over the drop-off area? And that's something that kind of we maybe should have thought of earlier. And that was really important feedback that we're going to go back and consider in the next round of drawings. There are some questions that we asked regarding, how the entrance is going to work there and how people are going to flow through the building. So we really will take your feedback and think that through and try to incorporate it the best we can. Any other thoughts or questions? Here, So the question was in the rendering on the lower left, where you can see the patio outside the dining. What direction does that face?
All right. Will I get feedback if I'm in front of the speaker? Okay. So this view, if you look at this overall, the street is kind of out here in the foreground and the houses are across the street. The park's over here. This side of the building is this view right here. So we're looking kind of where these trees are sitting back at the building from the north. So this is northeast. This face right here is the face that's going to face the residents across the street. And you can see from the plan view, it's pretty far back. So I think the impact to those single family homes across the street would be pretty minimal, and we'll make sure that we provide some kind of screening through landscape trees or whatnot. Does that make sense? Answer the question? Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
What do you think?
You like it? Great. Yeah, that's an interesting feature. No ramp there. Yeah, that ramp will be there, but we will have a direct shot into the new independent living building. Unfortunately, structurally to work around that gets a bit of a nightmare, and we'd be throwing a bunch of money into there where we may not get the return. But you will have a straight shot into the independent living building at grade. You don't have to go up. And so that will mitigate that problem. And no new ramps out at the in-site here. We're not going to just throw one in to throw one in. Okay. Well, did I hear another comment? Sorry. Mark, any final comments or no? Okay. Okay. Well, like we said, we'll be up here if you have a specific question and you'd rather have kind of a one-on-one conversation where we'd love to talk to you and have some back and forth on it. But thank you very much for your time.